Good evening. This is Tim Markle. I am on the Educational Committee for the Autism Society of South Central Wisconsin, as well as serving as director of the Southern Regional Center for Children and Youth with Special Health. As everybody knows, we are in one of the most unique years of humanity. One of the things that has happened is that we have so many questions about how is school going to get done? How should school get done? If I have a child with special healthcare needs, what's the best kind of schooling for them? So into the midst of that, we've had conversations about, is virtual schooling the same thing as the curriculum being delivered by my education district? Is that virtual? And those people that are involved in virtual schooling say, no, that is online learning. Virtual schooling is you apply to a virtual school and you go through the virtual school curriculum. Some people say, well, I guess if we're learning at home, then that's homeschooling. And homeschoolers say, no, 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 that's not homeschooling. That is just changing where you are doing the curriculum. It's very different from homeschooling. And so tonight, I want to help us understand a little bit more about what is homeschooling in Wisconsin. And so tonight we have three people that will be joining us, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves and let you know sort of why they're here this evening. Start with Rebecca.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here in my home because this is COVID time, so we're all doing this on video. So my name is Rebecca All, and I'm one of the board members at Wisconsin Homeschooling Parents Association. We were formerly called WPA, Wisconsin Parents Association. We've added homeschooling to the name just in the last couple of weeks. So we are a 37-year-old organization, and we were the organization that helped write Wisconsin's original homeschooling law, which has remained unchanged for 37 years. My role at WPA, I've been a member and a homeschooling mom for over 10 years. I have two kiddos at home, a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old now. My role is called Legislative Watch, and I stay in touch with what's happening at our state level with our legislators, with our governor, and with state agencies that oversee home education. And I also, all of us at WPA are all volunteers, and so we juggle a lot of roles. I do a lot of other things too, as do all of our board members. So I'm here to talk for WHPA. We are the only statewide organization that is not-for-profit, that is solely for the purpose of protecting Wisconsin's homeschooling laws, and that is entirely volunteer run. So all of our board members are working board members. There's no sitting on the board if you aren't participating actively in the organization. And everything that happens at WHPA happens because a homeschooling parent gets it done for you. So I'm going to answer questions tonight.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here, especially knowing so that now everybody knows I'm not paying anyone. I'm not getting paid to be here. They're not getting paid to be here. So we're all in that boat together. Cindy, would you please introduce yourself?
Okay, I am Cindy Schultz. I live in Racine, Wisconsin. I'm a mother of 5, although they're all moved out except for my youngest, who's 22, and he is who I homeschooled. I'm the co-founder and president of Autism Solution Pieces, which is a nonprofit in Wisconsin, and we help families with children and adults on the spectrum to be able to get the resources that they need. And I homeschooled Gavin for middle school and high school.
Thank you, Cindy. Welcome tonight. And Danielle.
Hello again. I'm Danielle Tolsman. I live in Portage, Wisconsin now, and I have 19-year-old Chaz is my son, and we homeschooled him like Cindy through middle school and high school. He's affected by frequent migraines and a seizure disorder, as well as essentially Asperger's autism spectrum disorder. I am actually past president of the Autism Society of South Central Wisconsin, and I continue to be plugged in and give as much as I can through the education committee. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And then full disclosure is I also have a 22-year-old son on the autism spectrum, and we did do homeschooling for a few years. Our educational journey with my son, and then I also have a daughter who's 1 year younger than he is. Both of them have experienced private school, public school, homeschooling, and virtual school. And so we've journeyed through all of them. One of the things I know my wife had to do, because she really took the reins of the homeschooling of our two children. She had to figure out, okay, if I'm going to not have my children in a public school, what do I need to do so that the state is happy with me, so to speak? Are there things, Rebecca, that parents need to understand about homeschooling versus any of the other schools? What do they need to do for the state?
Sure, that's a great question. So I'm going to start by pointing out that I have handed off to Tim a handout, and we're going to make that available to viewers of this YouTube video so you can kind of follow along. But all of these things are also available to you anytime at the Wisconsin Homeschooling Parents Association website, and we'll make sure that you have a link to that as well. So to answer your question, yes, you have to do a few things under the law in Wisconsin. And I want to say how many times you'll hear me say tonight the words in Wisconsin. It's fundamental because there is no such thing as a federal homeschooling law. There are 51 different laws about homeschooling in the United States because that is a state issue. So the question is framed perfectly. What do we have to do to make the state happy? And that is Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin, we have two main legal issues for homeschooling parents. The first is that Wisconsin has a compulsory attendance law. So every child under the age of 18 must be in attendance of a school. And we can talk about exactly what that means. The other thing is that you have to attend an educational program that is one of a few choices that we have in Wisconsin. I'm going to see if you can see this. Dun, dun, dun. So here we have school choices in Wisconsin. This is a painting. It is kind of hard to scan, so we're working on that. So here you have your kids, ages 0 to 6, however they come into your life, and then you're going to make some choices. And see, this is where we're going to have a crossroads here. You can only pick one of these things. Okay, that's the first thing to understand. So you cannot be enrolled in a public school and also enrolled in a private school. You can only be enrolled in one school. So if you decide you want to homeschool in Wisconsin, you're going to here's a thing you have to do, which is file a form, and then you homeschool. And who is in charge of the school when you homeschool? It's the parents, and that is all. You can choose to go to a public school. We have a lot of public school choices in the state of Wisconsin. You can go to a traditional public school, like a brick and mortar school. You can go to a public charter school. You can go to a virtual public school. All of those are public schools. So if your child is enrolled in a virtual school in your public school district, your child is attending public school. Whether the schooling takes place inside of your home or not, they are a public school student. That means that they are under the jurisdiction of your local school district. They are under the jurisdiction of all the state of Wisconsin laws that apply to public schools, and they have to follow the rules of their local school. So if their local school has a snow day rule, they need to follow that. If their local school has standardized testing, they have to do that. Even if they're in a virtual school or a charter school, all of those are public schools. We still all together here? It's a lot.
That's good. I almost wish, Rebecca, that I had you on Monday night to explain the difference between the schools, because you just did it a lot better than I did it on the previous recording. So you could just continue on your merry way. You're doing fantastic.
Okay, let's keep rolling because it's all going to make sense. And it's a lot. It's a lot, you know, and parents you have this beautiful, precious person in your life that you're trying to do your best for, and there's, so many options. So, okay, so another choice you can make is you can go to private school in Wisconsin if that's what you choose. And you can go to a brick and mortar private school, you can go to a virtual private school, and you can go to a voucher school, which is a private school that receives public dollars from the state of Wisconsin. And also you can go to tribal schools, and I feel terrible. I have to redo my painting. I did not put tribal schools on this list. But those are all your choices in the state of Wisconsin. So if you choose to go ahead, Danielle, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I decide, my child is right now in public school, and I decide I want to give homeschooling a try, and let's say after 1 year, once COVID passes, I think, I'm feeling more comfortable about returning to public school or to private school. Can parents do that?
Yes, you can. Maybe we should put a pin in that question and come back to it and finish talking about our legal obligations. Does that make sense? Okay. So the first thing you want to do as a parent is make this decision. Do I want my child to attend a public school or a private school? And of all of those things, you have all those choices. Or do I want them to homeschool? Under the law in Wisconsin, homeschooling means you don't get any public dollars. The parent is in charge of the child's education. So nobody else, you can be teaching your child for the time that you are calling homeschooling. And you have to fulfill a very small, limited list of requirements under the law. And we can walk through all of those if we want to, but I think that's the most fundamental thing that people understand. Under the law in Wisconsin, I'm just going to read the law because it's so short. Home-based private education program, that's an HBPEP, is what is legally a homeschool in the state of Wisconsin. A home-based private education program means a program of educational instruction provided to a child by the child's parent or guardian, or a person designated by the parent or guardian. We'll come back to that. An instructional program provided to more than one family unit does not constitute a home-based private education program. So under Wisconsin law, the only legal homeschool is a parent or guardian directly instructing the child. Or a parent or guardian hires a single person, like a tutor, for example, to instruct the children from a single family unit. It is not a cooperative. It is not a COVID bubble, as has been suggested in the press in other states. And so it's confusing because in other states that might be legal, but we're not doing that here.
Right.
Okay.
So
I'll stop there. Yeah.
No problem. I know, because we've read about these, educational pods. We put our kids in education with the neighborhood kids that they're already being exposed to.
Right.
What I'm hearing is in Wisconsin, that's a no-no. That's not going to count as homeschooling.
It's a no-no for the hours you have to record. So if you want me to continue explaining the law, I'll explain that second part. Is that a good idea?
I don't know. How long are you going to take?
You tell me when to shush.
Well, okay. Tell you what.
Yeah.
You think about what more we might need to know. I do want to get Cindy and Danielle talking, but I don't want to forget anything. But I definitely do want to make sure, again, let people know that are watching the recording, that we will get that link in the description of the recording on YouTube, as well as the link to the Wisconsin Homeschooling Parents Association.
Then I'll just answer with a short answer, which
Please.
is, under the law, one of the main requirement is that you are providing 875 hours per year of direct instruction. That's direct instruction from the parent to the child. And there's a few details about what those subjects need to mean. So on the question of something like a pandemic team or a bubble school or a co-op, those are all wonderful activities that can fulfill a lot of the other needs that your child has, needs for socialization or physical activities, just contact, sharing ideas, all of those things are super important. But we don't count them for those hours. So that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. Go ahead and do those things and use them the way you would use an extracurricular in school. The instructional hours has to meet 875 hours. And fun fact, If you're like my family and you do 5 days a week of homeschool every week of the year, it comes out to about 3.5 hours a day. So really, you can handle this. Or if you like to do like I do and do 7 days a week for just a few months, it's 2.5 hours a day. So just it sounds like, you know, it kind of sounds like 875 hours. How will I ever keep track of that? And it's very manageable once you embrace the idea that you are in charge of your child's education. And now I'll be quiet and wait for questions.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, because we wanted to make sure that we had a proper framework for our families that are listening. But we also know that with our families that are listening, one of their uniquenesses, so to speak, is going to be they probably have a child with autism or another special healthcare need, which always adds a layer of complexity to our lives. And so we always have okay, there's homeschooling, but what if it's homeschooling with the special needs child? There's virtual schooling. How do you virtual school with a special needs child? And so that's why we wanted to also bring on a couple of parents to talk about their experiences with homeschooling and with their families. Cindy, would you like to start with how did you did you grow up as a 5-year-old? Were you sitting there going, "Oh, I can't wait to grow up and be a homeschooling mom"? Oh, that's what I want to do. How did you end up with homeschooling your son?
Did you ask me that question?
Yes, Cindy, I am so sorry. I asked you the question. I said your name, and then I spent 5
okay.
minutes saying the question so that everybody could get totally distracted. And so now we're going to back to you, Cindy, to answer that question.
Okay, I have to admit, I always wanted to be a mom. That much I did know. So maybe not quite at 5, but I always wanted to be a mom. So to be blessed by having 5 children was a wonderful thing for me. Because he had autism, and I was very involved in his in-home program and making, different therapy, have different therapy ideas and stuff like for that. Gavin's godmother, who had been homeschooling, said, "You could homeschool like nothing." And I'm like, "Oh no, he needs the socialization in school, so nope, can't pull him out, Though I kept thinking, okay, they were teaching him words like cat and dog and up and down, and he was spelling elephant, umbrella, and tabernacle after Sunday school. And I thought, I had this feeling like you're not teaching him, you're just occupying his time while he's there. So I knew he was very, very smart. And because he was limited verbal, which makes that very hard as well, basically back then nonverbal.
Right.
So I had to pull him out, for middle school and high school, especially after I saw middle school and high school in Racine County. I thought, there's no way I'm going to send my little sheep to the wolves. So yeah, it's not that hard. Like Rebecca says, when you hear that number, 875 hours, you think, how can I ever? But it's nothing. It really, it adds up pretty quickly.
One thing, Cindy. Danielle, same question to you. How did you end up in this position? Unless, of course, you always wanted to do this.
I have to admit, our early experiences with public school were really positive. We were really fortunate. We were living in Columbia County at the time, although not Portage. So still a little bit outside of the Madison and Dane County bubble, but we had a really good, really engaged special education teacher who was interested in Chaz, and they had a great rapport. She, as we call it, she got him. She and Cindy's nodding, so she knows what I mean too. Unfortunately, life happens, and she moved out of the district. I was devastated, still am. Mrs. D, we miss you. The new teacher that came in, she and Chaz just couldn't seem to get on the same page together. They didn't click. And with my guy, you have to click. He has to, you have to have a rapport, or you can teach him everything, but it's not going to be real meaningful. Homeschooling kept come up as little differences with the public school started to come up. And it seemed like homeschooling kept coming up on the radar over and over and over. And I thought, you know, maybe this keeps crossing our path because we really need to look at this. And it was just small things. It was, he was going for ABA in Madison at a group center, and it was going really well, but it required him to leave public school 3 days a week, about 45 minutes before the end of the day. The school was not supportive of that. Even though great things were happening, you know, he was, to be brief, he walked into the school building and complimented a classmate on her cool purple shirt. And it was a big deal. So he was spending his time on something that was meaningful and he was gaining something from, but unfortunately the school wasn't supportive. So that started to happen. Our guy at that stage, when he was much younger, it was his world and we were all living in it. So when it came to mornings, the morning routine, I could, well, frankly, I could physically force him to be in the school building sitting in his seat when the bell rang at 7:50, or I could bring him in when he was happy and feeling good and charged up and ready for his day at 8:35 or so. I got lots of pushback about that. And it was really challenging because while I certainly understood that it wasn't on the schedule that the school preferred, I had difficulty getting that flexibility from the school in understanding that I can either force him to be there physically and not have a meaningful school day, or I can bring him when he's feeling ready to engage, and he can be productive and have a good day. Then they started talking about using big words like truancy. And so it was like, okay, we need to take this a little more seriously. Chaz had a health issue that came up in public school that wasn't handled appropriately, and it could have been really dangerous. When I brought to their attention that, you know, you thought he was misbehaving, he was actually having a seizure. They were, oh. And I thought, you know, I need to look at this. So anyway, I actually went to the library and got the then WPA handbook, and yay, and read through it, and I learned a lot about homeschooling. It answered a lot of questions for me about what homeschooling was, and was this something I could do? At that time, I didn't have any degrees. You know, and once I really looked at it and talked with a handful of friends who, it turns out, homeschooled, I didn't know, and learned more about it, it ended up being the right fit for us.
And about how old was your son when you first started homeschool?
It was when he would have started 6th grade.
So going into 6th grade. And Cindy, how old was your son when you started homeschool?
Yeah, that would have been the same time period. So he went to elementary school, and don't get me wrong, he had some really great teachers, you know, preschool and I don't know, kindergarten and first and second, you know, but then that last year that he was in elementary, it was just, he wasn't, he was trying to get away and, you know, just not staying in the room. And I'm like, okay, behaviors happen for a reason. We need to figure out what's going on, you know? And so I've always been that kind of mom, you know, I don't, got to figure things out, you know? And I just figured, okay, I can do this. I have a high school graduation paper there. I graduated.
Yay! Well, and that reminds me, you know, and, you know, one of the things that Danielle said was that there was only so much flexibility that the school could give. And that's true, is they are bound by their rules and regulations, and they have an enormous number, sometimes way too many kids, that they have to be able to try to educate as well as control. And so not every kid gets that individualized education, even though the IEP says individualized education plan. Sometimes it doesn't feel very individualized. And sometimes that's not the fault of any one particular person at the school, but the way that things have gone for decades in schooling. So Rebecca, I know that you're also a homeschooling parent. So when did you start homeschooling your kids? Were you one of those that, seventh grade, you decided that this is it. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to be a homeschool mom.
Um, boy, almost like that, almost since birth. But I came to it when my child was younger, and I hadn't experienced much like Cindy did. So I actually, among my many hats that I've worn, have also been a teacher. I've also done in-home therapy with kids on the spectrum. And I was very much interested in pursuing that route professionally. I come from a family of public school teachers and public school librarians. And
Yeah.
so my little one, like Cindy, I was saying, my little one was 3.5, 4, when he explained to me the difference between an escalator and an excavator. And I knew at that point, having friends who were teachers, I knew that the Dane County kindergarten curriculum for, Madison Public School District was the September curriculum is colors. And I thought, this is going to be problematic, right? Behaviors happen for a problem. This is going to be problematic for this child
Yep.
to be asked to do that. So I thought, how badly can I screw up kindergarten?
Right. It's kindergarten. It's kindergarten. How bad could it possibly go?
How badly can I? So I'll try it. And it went so well and so beautifully. And then our second child came along, and at that point we were hooked. And if it's not broken, don't fix it. And we were very blessed that my husband's career was growing at the time, and I was able to stay home and be with my kids.
Right.
I will interrupt to say, you don't have to be a stay-at-home parent to homeschool. You can. I know families who have 2 working parents or a single full-time working parent who do homeschool. You can do it. But that was what led us there, and it's been a really great journey. So my son had been to preschool, an excellent program, and my daughter has never been to formal institutional school.
Excellent, thank you. So let's pivot a little bit to some of the questions that I'm sure you get asked as homeschool parents. One of the ones that I would think would come up, and yes, some of these questions are planted. Thank you very much. I did not come up with them all on my own. Socialization. People tell us at school one of the primary reasons for public schools is to help kids learn how to get along with each other, and that they need those socialization skills to grow. Now, as a parent of a child with special health care needs, and as talking a lot to parents with special health care needs, I can tell you that not every kid, if they have a special health care need, have the opportunity for socialization and good quality, helpful, caring socialization in public schools. Some of them do, but not all of them do. But it's really hard to sit there and say, no, my kid's going to socialize with me. So how do you handle the socialization when it's you and them at home and maybe a pet? Danielle, how did you help your son learn socialization?
One of the things that my son shared with me was that he felt that when we were homeschooling, that it really took the pressure off. And those were his words.
Mm-hmm.
I went out and got plugged in with social groups outside of home at the library around a common interest, the Minecraft Club at the library. Also, there were several co-op groups, or that I frankly just really stumbled on them on Facebook. And let me tell you, as a mom of a child with special health care needs, well, now an adult, he would quickly remind me.
Yes.
The homeschooling families are truly the most inclusive people I have ever met. When we would go to these meetups, and we're meeting at this library in Madison, another parent is going to lead and do a arts and crafts project. It'll be about 2 hours. Bring a snack for some social and visiting after. We'd all sign up. We'd all chip in $3 towards supplies. We'd all go, and they didn't see Chaz as anyone other than himself. They knew Chaz as the kid that knows a lot about Minecraft and not Chaz who has these differences. So it was, people talk about being inclusive, but frankly, the homeschool community, my experience has been, they actually do it. But we would do those group activities. We had some of the best field trips. We went and toured behind the scenes places that frankly the big schools don't get to get into. The power plant in Portage, but behind the scenes at a restaurant. Of course, the water treatment plant. We did that one a couple of times, but it was always a favorite. It was, that's how we got the social time in. We made a commitment to do those activities at least twice a week. And he built a social network from the people in those groups. And like I said, they're truly inclusive and at least my experience was, they saw my son as himself, not as anyone that was any different than themselves.
Thank you, Danielle. Now we know that each kid is individual, that each person has their own sort of story. So Cindy, how did you work socialization with your son?
Well, I think, when I first started, my biggest worry was like, okay, I was involved with the school. Are they going to come back now and say, what are you teaching him? So what I really did first was got a curriculum. I ordered a Becca curriculum so that I knew that I had every book I needed to teach that boy. If anybody came and said, what are you teaching him? So they can't do that. They really shouldn't do that. I got involved with the Racine homeschool group, which is absolutely fantastic. And they just took me under their wing. And like Danielle said, it's just a family. It's an amazing connection. And even though Gavin, full-blown autism, you couldn't, you could pick him out in a crowd of all those homeschoolers, but they just took him in like they were, he was one of them. And it didn't matter that he couldn't talk or he used a letterboard to communicate or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. And we would go to parks together, like Danielle said, bring a picnic lunch, do this, and roller skating and gymnastics. And then my own nonprofit, gets together periodically, and we do a lot of fun things with, Club Awesome and all that. So he's a social butterfly. And when COVID hit, it was like, oh boy, bam, that was it. You can't go and do anything. So he learned like, okay, it's gonna just be mom for a while.
Which is, he's not alone. That's the experience that most of us have now. It's like, wow, I really get to know the people I live with. Okay, this has been interesting. Can I leave now? That's just sort of been everybody's experience. So Rebecca, I'm just wondering, with WHPA, do you have any helpful hints or resources for parents either on socialization, how to help social skills, or on Cindy brought up curriculum? How do you decide what you're going to teach your kid? I mean, there's so many options out there.
Sure, two great topics. On socialization, I would first throw out there that even the word or the idea of socialization is kind of a red herring. It's thrown around a lot, but we need to think about what that really means. And so as a homeschooling parent, you've decided you are taking control of your child's education. So all of the socialization things that go on at school, you can let that go. You don't have to worry about, is my child wearing the latest clothing that's going to get them accepted, or is my child going to succeed in a certain status-bearing club or sport or something. And what Danielle was saying was so true and so moving about finding your people. So homeschooling parents are are autodidacts and are motivated to go out and learn how to do things. And one of the things we learn how to do is find those places, find our people, find where we fit in. I always think about WHPA has an annual conference. And for people who've never been, it can be shocking to them. Yay, Danielle's cheering for the conference. It can be shocking to them to come into a room of 800 people who are all homeschooling in the state of Wisconsin and see children of all ages interacting with adults of all ages and other children of all ages, people from all different backgrounds, all cities in Wisconsin, all different lifestyles. It really, really is that kind of group. And part of that is because a lot of the things that we think of as socialization that happen in an institutional school don't happen to our children. So for example, my children have never been forced to spend time with a group of people who, as Sir Ken Roberts says, all share the same manufacture date. They can choose to visit with whomever they like. So my children, for example, do a lot of volunteering. They have been involved in all kinds of athletic and other kinds of social groups. And, that's how you go and find your people, just like being an adult. The other question was about curriculum. And so Cindy talked about a particular curriculum you can buy. There are a million different curricula you can buy, and any of them is acceptable. If you want to choose a faith-based curriculum, if you want to choose a curriculum that you can spend an entire year on one topic, and then next year you could do 12 different topics. You can do, families in Wisconsin have done what they call road schooling, and they take their kids and their family and hit the road, and their education that year is museums, national parks, in the car activities, wordplay, math games. It's really, up to you as a parent to choose that. And WPA does not recommend any particular curricula or any particular websites. But I will say, living in the age that we do, it's an incredible time to homeschool because literally everything didactic is available online. I cannot tell you how much YouTube is a central character in our homeschool.
Right.
This past weekend, took the screen door off and took out the screen and put in a new screen. I've never done that before, and it was all thanks to YouTube. And the children participated. So that's what homeschooling is really so timely right now, because so much is available to you. And it doubles as a way to find your people and a way to choose your curriculum. So it's really nice to see those two topics coming together, because we live in this age where you can reach out and find people, and you can also find information. In terms of finding your people, I highly, highly recommend homeschooling parents look for a local group. So join WHPA, find our website, find all our information, become a member so you can be in touch with our statewide organization. But it's really your friends and neighbors. It's really the people at the farm down the road. It's the bowling alley that you take your kids to. They're going to become your homeschooling community. And that's where you want to head to.
Wow. Okay. I know that Danielle, I believe, brought some show and tell to school today. I have a feeling it might have something to do with curriculum, possibly, maybe, or maybe she could try to work it into the title of curriculum. So Danielle, what do you got to show us tonight?
When I was working on a curriculum, I had, frankly, limited resources. I went it alone. I did discover this nifty book series. I did bring one, what every blank grader should know. I'm getting a thumbs up.
Thumbs up from the rest of the people.
Yeah, and these books are at the library, so no expense.
Don't even have to buy it. Just check it out.
Nope. Although this one, I think that I bought it. Actually,
I hope so, or else it's overdue.
Yeah, I think so. I actually got this at the resource fair at a past WPA conference, which is one of my favorite parts of the conference. But this book is really helpful because it goes through, language arts. This is the grade when you start talking about poetry and what the parts of poetry are and the different styles of poetry, geography, world civilization. So it gives an outline with subject matter. And because my guy was super smart, and he was middle school, high school age, but reading was excruciatingly hard for him still. So when we teach things, we do it all hands-on with, manipulatives. Yep, I brought, counting cubes, and then when we work on words, we work on it where he's at. This was a favorite. It has some miles on it. Hot Wheels Math. Things that he can, another great book, math fun projects. When it came to geography, I have several geography puzzles, because when he can touch things and hold them and work his way through them, it sticks. And then too, when he's looking at the state, we talk about the shape and where it is and interesting facts about the state. And I have him choose a state every week, and we would dive deep into that state, but he got to pick it. So he felt some control there, but a lot of it was video and discussion, hands-on. And then when we worked on reading where he was. I was able to find some Minecraft books, so a favorite topic, on Kindle that were at his reading level. And so it was a topic of interest to him that encouraged him to do it. But I also had, and I know that I have it here we go. This was something that we also worked on. It's Asperger's Syndrome and Owner's Manual. This was,
we all would like an owner's manual, so I'm glad that they have one written for them.
Well, except that it gives, an opportunity for him to write down
awesome
thinks about and tells me what things are hard, what things are easy. These are the things that I do really well. These are the things that I worry about. These are the things I don't worry about. And so it was nice because it gave him an opportunity, my personal emergency kit. In case of an emergency, who do you call? So because I built the curriculum, I could fold into it not only what the state required, but other pieces that I thought were important. So,
and one of the things that strikes me, Danielle, is as you're talking, especially about those manipulatives and the states and puzzles, is that one of the benefits that strikes me is that if they don't get it the first time, guess what? You get as many times as you want. It's the class isn't going to move on without it. Is you get to master that skill at your speed. And I think that's really kind of cool. Cindy, how was your curriculum journey like?
Well, after the first and second year of feeling like I had to buy a full curriculum.
Right.
Hey, this is not so bad. I can do this. I can hit and piece and pull and, whatever. The book Danielle mentioned, oh my goodness. Yeah, I went to a Racine homeschool group meeting. They share all their stuff. I think I got the whole encyclopedia set of those, and even with, I know I still have this other set about sexual, talking about the and how you're changing and all that kind of stuff.
Which, by the way, Cindy, I just want to say that sometimes in our public schools, our kids with special needs get pulled out when they start to talk about sexuality. And so they have very little educate, because sometimes they just don't know how to talk to our kids about it. So kudos to you for including that in your curriculum.
Right. And then even stress reduction and anxiety reduction. You can get books on anything, and teach it. And, it helps them understand why am I feeling, what's going on, especially now with the way things are. He's got a sister that sends us books all the time. So now we're working through the Planet Earth book, and he's 22. He's already graduated from high school, through the homeschool group. But he loves to learn, and I love to teach him. And today, we're reading. All of our children read Ingalls Wilder books, okay? Now, I don't think you can teach them that anymore in the public school because, of course, they say things they maybe shouldn't have, but then that's what you call, you know, these books are wonderful. You know, we've toured everywhere Laura Ingalls lived with our family. Obviously, Gavin didn't get to see everything, but, you know, we plan on going to like Pepin and, you know, like where she's buried and things like that. But just today, we finished a chapter and he wrote the most coolest thing. I'll say, so what did you, you know, he answers every question correctly. He uses this is like the RPM
Oh,
letter
yeah.
that he uses, or he uses his iPad that's got Assistive Express. So if anybody's got a limited verbal special needs child or adult, you know, have them feel free to reach out to me because they are so incredibly smart. And he says, you know, we're locked inside until they can tap into our mind and know what.
That is fantastic. And yes, I agree. Danielle, of course, can't be seen, but she's making a cute little heart for Love and City. Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
The other thing is the whole sensory thing, you know.
Yes.
We sit on ball chairs, you know, so when we're doing our schooling, he can bounce if he needs to, you know. And some people say, well, yeah, and when we first started, did he sit for the whole thing? No. Did I chase him around? No. Table, I would read something and I'd tap the letterboard and I'd say, I'll wait for you to come back. I know you know the answer. And then he would come back and he'd answer it. I'll never forget the time, and we'd always take little breaks. You know, I'm like, okay, now, you know, you did math, you did history, now take a little break. And he'd get up and he'd go running, and we went outside for a little fresh air. I always push barefoot, breathe deep, you know, get grounded, you know, let's dig in a plant, replant this, you know, because just feeling the dirt and it's so important to be grounded and diffuse our essential oils and everything. You know, I got my salt lamp on, you name it, we do it to try to keep calm and patient. But we were out in the backyard, we saw a frog jumping underneath the trampoline back then. I'm like, oh, let's get a container, let's grab a frog, you know. So we picked this frog up, bring it in the house. It sat on the kitchen table for weeks and we learned about frogs. Was that in the correct week? No, but we made it in there then. You know, you go with the moment, you make learning fun, and it's so less stressful, you know. And if we get up at 10 o'clock, we get up at 10 o'clock. We might just do a schooling a little longer that day.
Well, that answers my next question about scheduling, which is set your own. All right, good. We have answered that question. I don't want to keep everybody here all night, as we can only listen to so much at a time. But I'm interested in year three's experience about, you've already given us so much encouragement and so many hints. But what is it? Is there something more that you think people need to know about homeschooling? So think about that. We'll let you three think about that because we're going to go back to Rebecca really quick. Not just for the last time, Rebecca, but in Danielle's answer Danielle's question from before. Let's say I tried homeschooling and it turns out my kid doesn't like me. That it's just not going to work. And so I talked to the school and I arranged, can you go back to school?
Yes, 100% you can. Every child has the right to be enrolled in a school in the state of Wisconsin. So absolutely you can. We have one particular glitchy, weird law in Wisconsin that's a recent change, which is if your child attends homeschool for kindergarten, they may not meet the requirements for entrance for first grade to a public school. It's a very weird situation legally, and we may see the legislature resolve that at some point in the future. So what you'll want to do if you're homeschooling for kindergarten, but you think you might want to go back to school for first grade, is contact your school or school district and talk to them and get information from them locally. But the other option is if you homeschool for kindergarten and you still think you'd like to go back to public school at some point, you could also homeschool for first grade, and then you can enter public school, no questions. So that's what I mean by it's a little glitchy. It's
Very glitchy.
yeah, the goal of the legislature was working toward was to really encourage everyone to get a standard set of school skills under their feet in that 4K year, and in that kindergarten year. But you
Well,
know,
don't even get me started on disparities and equity, because that's not happening anyway,
right.
due to factors that families can't even control, that are out of their control. And so that's
Yeah.
a wonderful vision, a wonderful dream. But until we fix disparity in equity system, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
All right, Danielle, Cindy, what do we need to know? Give us your final thoughts. Cindy, go ahead and go first. What do we need to know?
Okay, well, now we got Gavin in the background now.
Yay, Gavin.
Back there. Gavin, you want to say hi? Come and say hi. Say hi. Okay. I guess I would just say teach them the meat and potatoes and forget the fluff. Somebody told me from the very beginning, and I'm like, what do they mean by that? But I get it. You know, it's like Danielle was talking about, you know, Minecraft. Temple Grandin, who has autism and, you know, has come so far and talks at many, many conferences, she said, pick something that your kid likes and teach them. So if they like Matchbox cars, teach math with Matchbox cars, teach colors with Matchbox cars. And, you know, like, how many do I have? Let's sort them. Let's do this. Let's do that. Which one goes faster? Which one goes slower? You know, and you can learn so much. Gavin, you know, he can tell time with the second hands and like a regular clock. Most kids don't even learn that anymore. He can count change back. You know, like, I can't get change back. Well, no, there's a coin shortage.
Well, yeah, you're not going to change back from anywhere right now. Thank you for donating to your local Walmart.
Right, because people, they weren't even taught that in school. They don't even, or well, they were, but maybe they didn't catch on. Gavin, you know, being special needs, he knows all about the coins and the this and the that. So, you know, teach how to balance a checkbook. Teach things that in the real world you need to know. You know, you just can't keep writing checks if there's no money in there.
Well, you can, but they definitely frown on it.
Right.
Something illegal about it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Cindy. Danielle, what sort of closing? What do we need? I know you have a list of 25 other things, and so it leads me to believe that we might need to do this again at some point. Yeah. So Danielle, I may give you another chance a couple months down the line. Maybe we'll do a part 2. We'll see. I've enjoyed talking to you all of you so much that I'm willing to give another hour of my time to you at some point, just not tonight. So Danielle, what else do we need to know?
You were correct. I have notes. Really, there was just four things that stand out to me. One is there's huge benefits to homeschooling. It's like an IEP, but bigger and even more flexible. Very briefly, Chaz always had difficulty when there was a day off of public school. You know, if Monday was an in-service day, there was no class. So then we'd walk in on Tuesday and he'd be like, no, Monday mornings I go to music. No, actually it's Tuesday. What? It's Tuesday. What? And he would be upset all day. So we school year round and the consistent schedule really worked well for him. That's not something you can get, frankly, I think anywhere else but at home.
No, there's too many factors involved.
Yep. And when it came to his, he was getting some services at school before we made the transition to homeschool, as far as from speech and OT. We were able to access those services through, I contacted his primary care physician. I said, look, we used to get these services through school. We're not going to school anymore. Can you help us with a referral? And they were happy to provide us one, a referral to OT and speech for an evaluation. And he actually got more speech and OT time in the medical environment than he did at school. It wasn't 10 minutes twice a week. It was an hour twice a week. So It was, and that really helped him gain lots of skills. And lastly is that school time is not just sitting and writing. It's discussion, it's cooking, it's experiments, it's Googling frogs. It's one of our favorite activities we would do every year is we would go to the World Dairy Expo, canceled this year, unfortunately, but we would go. While he would not step foot in any of the barns, his mission was that he needed to ask 3 questions. He could pick the questions, and of course, we would go to the John Deere equipment area, and yep, that was his area, but he would ask 3 questions, and those 3 questions would become 6, would become 12, and we would come home and he'd have all this new knowledge and and then there'd be new questions, and well, great, let's dive into those new questions. So it's been a really positive experience for us, but that being said, it's work. Be sure to set aside time to plan. If you go into it without a plan and you wing it, it's not going to bear the fruit that you would like it to, and you may not meet all of the requirements that your form that you submit every fall says that you're going to do that year. Like I said, there's lots of benefits, but it requires some effort.
Thank you very much. Rebecca, I don't want to leave without giving you one more chance to tell us anything else about what we might need to know. Oh, what are you showing us, Cindy?
Okay, I asked Gavin, is there anything that you want them to know? And
Awesome.
Homeschooling is the best. I love it. Just do it.
There, just do it.
Just do it.
There
Homeschooling
you
is
go.
the best.
See, I didn't need to talk to you guys for an hour. I needed to talk to Gavin for 1 minute.
Yeah.
Loves it. Do it. Thank you. Thank you, Gavin, and thank you, Cindy. Rebecca, anything that you would like to add?
Sure, I'll throw out a couple of quick thoughts at the close. Join WHPA if you're interested in homeschooling. Find us on the website. Come to our annual conference. You will get our newsletter. Danielle talked about our handbook. The handbook is now out of print because our laws change faster than it's reasonable for us to be able to print physical copies. So all of that information is on the website. So homeschooling in Wisconsin is a right guaranteed under the law, and it is a responsibility. Grab hold of your rights and run with it. Take Gavin's advice, just do it. And take the responsibility seriously. Make sure you understand the law. If you have questions, reach out. We have volunteers who answer the phone, who answer emails, individual questions about your specific situation and your child. We're happy to help you with. My advice to people who are thinking about it, not sure if they want to jump in, I never proselytize to come to homeschooling. It has to be something that you come to because you want to try it, because you're driven to try it. But when you hear stories from Danielle, from Cindy, what you're hearing is what an IEP was originally meant to be, an individualized education plan. It is based on our science and our understanding of what is developmentally appropriate, what is cognitively appropriate for the particular person that we're talking about. But it is also based on a fundamental need for compassion and love. And that's what you're hearing from these moms, is they are compassionate toward what was it their child needed in that moment. And I'm not here to bash public schools or private schools.
Right.
Those can be great choices. But that kind of individualized, direct attention that comes from a compassionate person who is attentive to you in the moment that you are together is something that homeschooling can support all the time. So when your child needs to physically move their body in order to make a connection in their brain, which we know from tons of research is a real fact, then you don't have to hold them back. You can bounce on balls. We did so many audiobooks and so many read aloud hours in our home because people can physically move around while they're listening. If your child needs quiet, that can be very hard to get in an institutional school. We know from research that you can only watch these videos for so long. You can only listen to a lecture for so long. People need quiet. We know babies learn when they nap. We know that children learn when they sleep. They have to do the thing, sleep, and then wake up, and that's when they've processed that new information. So, and also we know that there's a fundamental learning that happens when you're bored, and innovation comes from boredom. School does not allow time for boredom because boredom leads to behaviors that schools dislike. So these are all things that fold into meeting an individual person, this person that you love, that is central in your life, from a place of both educational and scientific background, but also compassion. You're meeting this person where they're at. So jump in, both feet, go for it. You can't screw it up. Know the law and reach out if you need help.
Fantastic. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule tonight. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Danielle. Feel free to unmute and say goodbye all if you want. What we're going to do is we're going to stop the recording in about 5 seconds. If you could just stay on just so I can make my personal goodbyes to you as well, okay? So go ahead, unmute and say goodbye, and then I'll end the recording.
Bye. Thanks so much for
Bye.
having me.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, thank you. And good luck. You've got this.